Good morning, guys. Welcome to my unboxing and review of the Master Grade ReGZ Char's Counterattack version. I got this kit on Premium Bandai for $67. This is normally a Gundam Side F exclusive. This kit is essentially a 1.5 version of the original Master Grade ReGZ, which came out in 2001. And unlike the Master Grade Zeta Plus Unicorn version, which I took a look at a couple of weeks ago, this kit actually makes some significant improvements on the original, apart from some additional color separation. The big thing is it uses a lot of joint parts from the ReGZ Custom, which came out in 2019, so this kit should feel fairly modern. It also changes the proportions of some of the parts. I know specifically the head is new, and I think some parts on the forearms and thighs are also new. This kit is a recolor of the ReGZ Unicorn version, which came out in 2019, so everything I say about this, apart from the color scheme, will also apply to that kit. The ReGZ in Universe is Anaheim's attempt to mass-produce the Zeta Gundam. Unlike Karaba's Zeta Plus, this kit cannot transform on its own. That was their main cost-saving maneuver to simplify the mobile suit. It has a back weapon system, which can dock onto it to form a Wave Rider mode. It has to be performed by a specialized team at a hangar. This kit cannot transform into Wave Rider mode by itself, but it can transform out of it by itself. So this kit has a fairly unique design. And this box, I don't know how much you can tell, but it's massive. The $67 price tag I thought was a little strange until I got this box in person. It's about the same length and width as a standard Master Grade box, but it's double as thick. And this box is also a very kind of standard release-ish, with brand new, very nice artwork on the front and some information on the bottom, showing off the accessories, what it will look like. It transformed and untransformed in several different poses. Sorry, I don't have enough room to rotate this in front of the camera, but on the back we have some information about Side F itself and talking about the back weapon system that it needs to turn into Wave Rider mode. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. So, taking a look at the manual first, we have a brand new standard release style manual here with a cropped version of the artwork on the front. On the back, we get a nice painted build and decal guide. It looks like the decals are going to be fairly minimal on this kit, which is kind of in line with a lot of the standard releases for Master Grades in the last few years. Just kind of minimal decals, trying to keep it relatively anime accurate. Alright, inside, taking a look at the parts list, it looks like we are going to have a lot of leftover parts from this kit, being a mishmash of the modern ReGZ Custom and the old original Master Grade ReGZ. Yeah, and apart from that, this is a very kind of standard Master Grade manual. Yeah, so I just flipped through it. Unfortunately, no big info spread in the middle with a bunch of information on the mobile suit itself. But it looks like we are getting an Action Base 13 with this kit, which is extremely nice. Always great to see. So, inside the box we get 14 bags of runners, and in those bags, 29 runners, as well as this foil sticker sheet for some camera stickers. Very nice to see that we don't need actual color correcting stickers outside of these. A few screws to be used with some of the original joint parts from the original Master Grade ReGZ, presumably in the knees. And this nice sheet of water slide decals. These are mostly going to be marking stickers for the ReGZ itself, EFSF, the EFSF logo here. Some unit marking stickers, getting into this massive pile of 29 runners. So these runners were printed in September of 2024, starting with runner A1 here from the original ReGZ Master Grade from 2001, is this multicolored runner here in 3 colors, kind of a primer frame gray for some parts for the rifle and frame parts, a clear part for the eyes, and a bunch of yellow parts here for accents, thrusters, and vents. Runners B1 and B2 are joined, are also from the original ReGZ Master Grade, in this very nice dark blue for a bunch of different armor parts. Runner C, still from the original ReGZ, for a bunch of different armor parts for the torso, the head, which I'm probably not going to use because I know the head in here is new, and parts for the skirts in this very light green kind of teal color. Runner D in blue for some more armor parts, still from the original ReGZ Master Grade. Also parts for the head and the shield. 2 of Runner E in that light green, faded teal color for some more armor parts. Still from the original Master Grade ReGZ. 2 of Runner F in this kind of primer gray for some more frame parts. Runner G, still from the original ReGZ Master Grade, for some more frame parts in dark gray. And it looks like some hand parts that we're probably not going to use. Runner H1 from the original ReGZ Master Grade in this very nice red, for some accent parts and parts for missiles and things like that. Runner I from the original ReGZ Master Grade in this faded teal color, for a large part for the shield and the nose cone. Still from the original ReGZ Master Grade, 2 of Runner J in dark blue for some more armor part, 2 of Runner K in gray for some more frame parts, still from the original ReGZ Master Grade. Runner L for some large wing parts, still from the original ReGZ Master Grade and that nice faded teal. Runner M from the original ReGZ Master Grade for some very unique beam saber parts in clear yellow, especially with the way they kind of flare at the bottom. I'm very excited to see it pose with the beam sabers with these effects. Runner MP for some generic swappable fingers for the hands. Definitely better than the kind of articulated old Master Grade hands we would have seen back then. As you can see, this runner was designed in 2012. Alright, finally getting into some new parts, or at least relative to the old ReGZ. These would have been included with the ReGZ Unicorn version. As you can see, the runner design date is 2019. So runner XA, multicolored for gray frame parts for trigger fingers, looks like some grenades, the rifle, some clear parts for the new head, as well as this red part also for the head for the chin. This large XB runner in gray for a whole bunch of new parts that would have been included with the ReGZ Custom for the frame. 2 of runner XC, also in that dark frame gray for a bunch of joint parts and frame parts. Runner XD in that faded teal for some new armor parts. It looks like we have parts here for the ankle armor, the collar armor, the backs of the hands, a new seated pilot figure, and parts for the head. 2 of Runner XE with some more armor parts in that faded teal, as well as the antennas for the head. Runner XF in that nice dark blue for some new armor parts, as well as parts for the shield. Of course, being based on a Master Grade from 2001, we have a full sheet of polycaps for the joints we will be using from the old kit. This is PC 122 for this large sheet of 100 polycaps. And the last 2 runners are an included Action Base 13, which, as far as I'm aware, is not sold separately and is like one of the better, if not the best, action base out there. Really, in my opinion, the only downside for this is the size it takes up on your shelf, but that's about the best downside you can have for an action base. So with that gigantic list of runners out of the way, I will see you after the build. Alright, welcome back. Here's the Master Grade ReGZ, Char's Counterattack version. Snap build, panel lined, decaled up, and top coated using Mr. Hobby premium flat top coat. Now you might notice as this spins around, a couple of the decals did get a little messed up on the back, but it's purely aesthetic. If you don't use the decals, that won't affect you. And it doesn't really affect any like mechanical things with the kit, and I won't take it into account for this review. Anyway, so the build for this kit was very pleasantly surprising, and it did confirm a lot of what I thought was going on with the Master Grade Zeta Plus Unicorn version, that a lot of the weirdness with it was because it was a fully transformable suit, being the Zeta. Now this kit is semi-transformable. It doesn't have a lot of the weirdness. The torso and waist are separated. The head neck assembly is just kind of normal. It just pops into the top of the torso instead of having this full thing where it can descend into the chest cavity. The legs, the armor is very typical. It just kind of snaps onto the frame in various like pegs and holes in the frame to facilitate that, instead of just having a bunch of polycaps for it to slide onto. The only piece that really does that are the knee pieces. It's really only held in by a polycap kind of at the near the bottom of the knee piece. This kit feels a lot like what the Zeta Plus should have been. This is a very solid way to do a 1.5 build. Build-wise, the new parts are almost the entire torso. The cockpit hatch, like the kind of gray inner frame that actually swings out, and the red part are from the original ReGZ release. And the yellow vent accent parts on the chest are also from the original release. Everything else is brand new. The entire head is completely new. It's moderately smaller than the old head. It has better color separation with the Vulcans on the side, and it has better part separation with that head kind of ridge piece where the large rear camera is a separate piece instead of just being one big molded thing on each half of the head like on the original. The forearm housing, like the dark blue parts, and the forearm grenade launcher are all new parts. The grenades themselves are old. In the upper leg, like the entire upper leg is completely brand new. Or not brand new, it's using new parts from the ReGZ Custom. The the screws go into the lower knee and the lower shin. I didn't really notice any kind of jank with them. I know some kits like the Master Grade Crossbone, people feel the need to screw them in very tightly because the kits are kind of loose. I don't really notice that here. And the beam rifle, which we'll take a look at later, is mostly new parts from the ReGZ Custom again. The beam sabers, the handles for the deployed versions are new. The kind of fold-out crossguard of it is old. And the blue part of the shield is also new. So kind of being a hodgepodge of newer modern parts and 24-year-old 2001 parts, this kit feels kind of anachronistic to build. It's very, like, the torso is extremely modern Master Grade, like, very nice detailed inner frame, everything layers on, like, very nicely. You really, like, you can really see kind of the construction of the mobile suit as it was, like, intended to look in the show. Like, you would see all those, like, mechanisms on the inside of it. It's very cool. But then you get to, like, the arms and stuff, where you don't have a complete inner frame in the lower arm. And everything's just kind of very, I guess, simplified. And you see this, like, kind of very cool, like, time capsule into what, like, Master Grade models were like 24 years ago, without the annoyance of having all the jank that the Zeta Plus did. In a way, this feels like this is the 1.5 that the Zeta Plus should have gotten. It keeps a lot of the old parts, like aesthetically and stuff, but it improves on the parts that matter. And in the end, we get a very solid product that manages to feel good and look good while still using a significant amount of old parts. Now, aesthetically, I really like this kit. I think the kind of muted teal color as a primary color is very interesting. It definitely harkens back to things like the gym with that classic kind of mint green off-white color, except this is definitely more on the green side than the white side. Color accuracy-wise, this kit is nearly perfect. A lot of the color inaccuracies that you need to apply are kind of on the yellow vent bits, like on the chest, on the crotch. You see those like squares on the front skirts, where the insides are supposed to be gray because it's the hollow part going into the kit, but it just isn't because it's kind of hard to do that on Gunpla without including either a massive amount of extra black parts or like a bunch of color correcting stickers. Like, it's fine to just paint the inside gray or like dark gray or black. Like, I'm not going to hold that against this kit. There is one semi-major color inaccuracy that we'll get to when I take a look at articulation later. But apart from that, this kit is pretty much entirely color accurate, and most of that is actually coming from the original parts from the 2001 release, which I'm very surprised by. Like, you'll see, like, those vent details are yellow. These kind of thruster details on the inside of the shoulders are yellow. If you look at the insides of a lot of the thrusters on the backpacks of the legs, you can see the inside. Like in the back skirts, they're all like color separated yellow parts, which is very nice. And I wasn't expecting that from a lot of these older parts. Like some kits like the Zeta Plus, like I expect it to be color accurate because the color scheme is so simple, on the Unicorn version at least. But like with a kit like the ReGZ that has a kind of complete traditional color scheme, it's very nice to see it like completely color accurate, or almost completely color accurate. And it's also really interesting to see a lot of the Zeta aspects that made it into this, like, kind of basically complete grunt version of the Zeta Gundam. Like, you see it in the torso with kind of the way it protrudes outward, the downward slope on the sides of the chests with the very thin chest vents, as opposed to a lot of earlier, like, Gundam and Gundam-style mobile suits that have kind of large square chest vents. You see it in the kind of inclusion of this stabilizer on the backpack. You see it in the kind of large forearms, especially compared to the upper arms that house grenade pods. You see it in the front skirt with the way that this kind of like aerodynamically juts down for the crotch piece, and the kind of standard but slightly elongated front skirts on the sides. You see it in the legs with these kind of like bell-bottom flare-outs in the shins. Like, a lot of this Zeta design language is very interesting. I really like it, and I think it definitely fits with this being essentially a mass production Zeta Gundam. For stickers, so you notice that these are a little muted. I did not mask these off when I sprayed the top coat. I feel like kind of having the shininess of these foil stickers muted a little bit definitely fits with the kind of muted, more melancholy color scheme and design of the ReGZ. Sticker 1 is going to be this these green and black foil stickers for the eyes. There is a clear piece underneath it, so you can just paint it if you would like. Sticker 2 is this very small foil sticker on this blue piece on the forehead. Sticker 3 is this sticker for the front camera on the head ridge. And sticker 4 is this very large rectangular sticker for the rear head camera. Alright, moving on to articulation then. For the head, it will look up quite far. It will look down extremely far, looking down into its own chest. Very impressive. And unlike the Zeta Plus, again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't have that weird neck assembly, so you can kind of just slam it down without fear of jamming the head into the torso. It will tilt a little bit side to side, but not particularly far. And of course, full 360 spin, being on a ball joint. For the shoulders, this entire assembly, including this top blue cap piece and the torso, will swing out to give an okay swing forward. It's not great, especially considering that this is the modern part of the kit, kind of the entire torso, including this frame part. It's not the greatest, but it'll do. The shoulder will rotate upwards to allow the arm to go a little more than 135 degrees upward. Nowhere near the last shooting pose, but quite good. Of course, full 360 degree rotation. Rotation of the upper bicep. This flap, of course, will move. I don't remember if I mentioned that a little bit ago. Full double bend in the elbow. Giving about again, a 135 degree bend before it collides with the shoulder armor. The wrist is on this kind of, well, the wrist is on a ball joint inside of this little hinge. Right, the wrist itself is on a, well, the backpack just fell off, but the wrist itself is on a ball joint. That's also on a hinge, so you can get some decent articulation out of it, but it will pop out of the socket fairly easily, so just be careful with that. Like, it will fold down quite far, and that's because, of course, these are grenade pods, so the doors will pop open. You just push down on the grenades to open up a little bit, crack it open, and the grenades will be peeking out like so. So this is the one kind of color inaccurate part from the old kit that made it into this 1.5 version. These grenades, this entire assembly is just like, including this back part that you push down to get it out, is all in dark blue. I painted them red using a standard Gundam marker. And as for the hands themselves, they use swappable style fingers, so no articulation there. The thumb is on a ball joint and has 1 point of articulation on the knuckle. As for the torso then, you have 2 points of articulation for the torso, one kind of in between this top section and this lower section, and one between the lower section and the waist. So because of that, for stomach crunch, you get a pretty decent downward stomach crunch, although this kind of thick torso section with the cockpit hatch will get in the way of that. And you get a very far upward crunch. And of course it tilts side to side, and it will rotate 360 degrees on the ball joint. For the cockpit hatch, this blue part will slide up, and then the door will open to reveal our sitting pilot figure inside, who is, I don't know if you can see that, he's in the same kind of faded teal as the main color of the armor. He's just kind of this generic EFF pilot figure. I don't think it's supposed to be Amuro. Taking a quick look at the backpack that popped off, these thrusters will slide forward and back a little bit, and of course the stabilizer can move up and down, which you will mostly be using for the mobile armor transformation, but if you want to pose it like kind of falling down or like descending, then you can have this upward to kind of give that impression of motion that it moving down is kind of lifting that up. Alright, for the waist then, this entire front skirt assembly will slide up, but that's mostly for the transformation. Each front skirt is on a separate ball joint. It will go up. It is missing some inner frame detail. This is kind of one of the parts that gives it away as a 2001 kit, this lack of color separation. There is some detail, no color separation on the underside. The side skirt grenade pod thing will lift up a little more than 45 degrees. Of course, those grenades can pop out for making it look like it's firing them. These grenades are color accurate. They are just supposed to be in the same faded teal as the rest of the armor. The back skirt can rotate a little bit back before it collides with the stabilizer without oh no, Yeah, no, it just rotates a little bit back. If you want to give a little bit more kind of dynamism, like it's adjusting the thrusters to give it more speed. The legs then will we'll go about 90 degrees before it pops the front skirt out. For side raise, you run into a similar problem that the Zeta Plus ran into. It can't really get the leg out too far to the side, about 45 degrees. Definitely the most disappointing part of the articulation. Back kick, you are similarly limited by the static back skirt. Of course, rotation in the thigh. Full double bend in the knee before this kind of very thick lower leg armor collides with the thigh. The thrusters on the lower leg will move forward and back like the ones in the backpack. This flap will move up and down to facilitate foot movement. The entire ankle will swing forward quite far. It will swing downward a decent amount. Of course, you get a little bit of side to side, but not much. Of course, there is some toe bend for the mobile armor transformation, although it's not particularly like stable like this. If you put it down on the ground, the toe will just revert back. It won't stay like that. So overall, articulation is mostly quite good. There are some weak points, particularly in the legs, but it should be able to hit a lot of the poses you would want it to hit in mobile suit mode. And of course, here's a size comparison between an average size high grade, being the high grade Blue Destiny Unit 1, and an average size master grade, being the master grade Gym Sniper 2 White Dingo team. As you can see, the ReGZ is quite a tall suit. It stands at 21.5 meters in universe, which kind of puts it in between a standard size Gundam and the new Gundam, but more on the new Gundam side. And you can see, like, it's a very leggy kit. The legs alone are a little bit taller than a standard high grade. So yeah, take that into account when you're planning out shelf space. This is a rather tall kit. And for accessories, here's the ReGZ 1.5 with everything it comes with. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff here, and a lot of the accessories are quite large, so I can't even fit them all in frame. But panning it up a little bit. Alright, starting with our hand options, as per usual. For our fingers, we get two sets of standard holding. You get a set of standard holding hands, one for the left and the right. A set of open expressive or rifle support hands for the left and right. And of course, a trigger finger set only for the right side. We get some adapters here for attaching the beam rifle onto the shield while it's in mobile armor mode. Very nice. We get two action base adapters. One, like, basically it's kind of a different version of the fork for mobile suit mode, because the hips do come from the original 2001 release, so you do have to use the fork to get it onto an action base in mobile suit mode. And in mobile armor mode, we have this more standard looking action base adapter. We have two beam sabers deployed, kind of with this crossguard that flares open to project these two very nice clear yellow beam effects, as I mentioned in the unboxing section, with this very nice kind of flare out at the base. We get a standing pilot figure with no base from the original ReGZ release. This is kind of a generic, this is just kind of a generic pilot figure. I don't think it's supposed to be Amuro. I think it's supposed to be just some normal guy, which is why it didn't feel quite right to put the Amuro decal on, because while he piloted it, this wasn't really a personal suit of his, so I think the Londo Bell decal is just more fitting. Of course, when the beam sabers are not in use, I missed this on the backpack, but they will be stored inside the backpack. You have these two hatches that will pop open and reveal the beam saber inside. They'll reveal the beam saber inside in this very nice assembly that kind of slides up when you open the door. And of course, you get one for both sides. Of course, we get our beam rifle here. While the kind of sculpt and some of the detail on this beam rifle is quite nice, both halves of the beam rifle are new, the barrels from the original release. This beam rifle is literally as simple as it gets. It's literally 3 parts, 2 halves sandwiched together and 1 part for the barrel. So you don't see anything like a secondary handle that can move or removable E-packs or anything. What you see is what you get. Of course, you get this large ReGZ shield with some nice decals for Londo Bell, EFF, kind of talking about the giving the model number here. On the backside, you have some very nice molded inner detail, but most of it is just going to be in the same kind of faded teal as the rest of the armor parts, but you do have some nice kind of inner frame detail for the attachment point into the arm and where it can grip onto the handle, and of course you get some nice handheld grenades here, color separated in dark gray. And these grenades are unfortunately one big piece, just kind of fused together and that plug into the top, so you can't detach them separately and pose the ReGZ throwing them. Of course, we get the very nice Action Base 13. Again, this is probably the best Action Base Bandai's ever made, especially for larger kits. It's perfectly stable, it holds everything as you would want. Really the only problem is as you can see, it's very large, so if you have limited shelf space, it might be a problem. And of course, the main accessory, the main star of the show, the back weapon system. This is, as you can see, it's quite large. Nose to end, it's about as tall as the ReGZ itself, which is already a tall mobile suit. Color separation here, like on the ReGZ, is pretty much perfect. You have a very nice contrast between dark blue, faded teal, and red accents for this kind of what would normally be the cockpit if this were like a kind of space fighter, like the ReGZ's mobile armor mode has it act like, and for the big propellant tanks under the wings. Of course, kind of hollow, undetailed parts on the inside that you're not going to see when the ReGZ is tucked up in it. Some very nice color separation for some side thrusters here in dark gray. Of course, you have in the mega beam cannon in the nose, and the two beam guns mounted on the side. They don't really articulate, they just kind of sit there. Yeah, not much articulation from the back weapon system, but I don't think anyone was really expecting it. Like, I doubt people were expecting, like, the flaps to move or anything. But yeah, this just looks big and impressive as you would want it to. So with all that out of the way, let's get the ReGZ into some poses. So getting the ReGZ into a bit of a spin and starting with it on the ground in the usual kind of running and gunning pose. I was actually really surprised that this kit could even maintain this pose, especially while spinning on the base. Although it was a bit difficult to get it to maintain even like this kind of less extreme pose balanced on one foot. The problem with the foot having very minimal articulation outside of the transformation and being kind of fairly narrow, especially compared to the large size of the ReGZ, makes it kind of hard to balance. This is also a suit that doesn't look great on the ground. It's clearly designed for like space combat, so it looks a lot more natural up on a base, which we'll take a look at in a bit. But on the ground, this is a decent option. The lack of articulation on the shield, being able to swing to the side of the arm and being stuck on the back, is also kind of an issue. But yeah, this is a decent pose. The swappable fingers definitely hold on way better to the weapons than the articulated hands of both the Zeta Plus and the Chimp Sniper 2 that I took a look at a couple weeks ago. Alright, now getting it into a bit of a melee stance with the Beam Saber out. The Beam Saber is actually really cool. Like I said earlier, I really like the beam effect on this. This is a case where I would definitely consider posing a kind of generalist non-melee focus suit with their melee weapon out, just because that beam effect is so cool. It gives, like, I don't know, it just makes it super unique, especially with that clear yellow. The color is also fairly unique, especially for Fetty suits. It's one of those cases where, just by, like, virtue of being a little different, standing out on the shelf a little more, it's something I would consider just having up on the shelf with the Beam Saber out. Alright, now getting it up into the air in the usual, at least attempt of a downward aggressive firing pose. As you saw in the articulation section, the inability of the legs to kind of really swing out to any meaningful degree kind of hurts it here. It's definitely not a complete deal breaker. As you can see, this is like a fairly convincing, like, kind of diving or like I guess repositioning firing pose. But again, the inability of the shield to kind of pivot around the arm makes it a little awkward, having it stuck to the back and having to pose it like this, especially with the lack of color separation and inner detail on the inside of the shield. I think if you wanted to kind of paint it dark gray or something to give it a little bit more contrast, that would be welcome and definitely an improvement. Alright, and now having it in kind of a, I guess, all-out firing pose with the grenade pods on the wrist and the waist firing, not great. I would really only consider posing the kind of wrist-mounted grenade pods with only one arm firing. Having both firing looks a little goofy, and the waist-mounted grenade pods I probably wouldn't even consider posing it with to begin with. The lack of color separation makes it a little unimpressive. It's an interesting option for sure, but it's just not something that really appeals to me. I would definitely not consider posing it like that. Also, you might notice the legs are in the transformed mode with the knee swung forward. It's actually kind of hard to articulate the legs without it accidentally activating the transformation on them. A little annoying, but not a deal breaker by any means. Speaking of the transformation, getting it into the mobile armor mode, you might notice that it's outside of the booth. That's because this is already a tall mobile suit, but laying it kind of flat like this and mounting a rather large piece of equipment on its back, it literally does not fit in my photo booth. I cannot spin it around like this in there, so I just have it out on the desk. And this is definitely really impressive. It looks great. It definitely fits kind of that heavy space fighter aesthetic that it's supposed to kind of fill role-wise while it has the back weapon system on. It's a little unconvincing from the bottom, or if you see the head just kind of tucked underneath the back weapon system, but it's definitely really cool. The back weapon system itself is absolutely the star of the show here. I really like how it looks. I love the cannons on it, the nose-mounted mega beam cannon, the stabilizer, like, it all just looks great. And I definitely like it in mobile armor mode more than I like it in mobile suit modes. I will probably pose it like this on the shelf. It definitely has a lot of presence with its large size, the very varied color separation between the propellant tanks, the red parts on the thrusters on the legs, the splashes of blue on the rear, and the kind of heavy contrast between the dark blue and the teal on the back weapon system itself. It's all just really great to see, and definitely kind of, I guess, the main point of this kit. So yeah, in conclusion, the Master Grade ReGZ Char's Counterattack version is an excellent 1.5 update to the ReGZ, and definitely a kit I would consider getting if you really like the design of the ReGZ or Char's Counterattack in general. This is a kit with excellent like aesthetic, I guess, attention to detail, and faithfully recreates all of the colors and the geometry of the ReGZ. The kind of, I guess, more minimal decals compared to a lot of modern kits, especially Verkaz, definitely lend to this. Colors of the Char's Counterattack version are appealing to a lot of people. I know a lot. I was seeing a lot of people complaining when the Unicorn version came out that they released that instead of the Char's Counterattack version because people just weren't that big a fan of the Unicorn color scheme. This kit, it does have a few pitfalls in articulation, especially in the legs. It's pretty rough. Also, when I was transforming it into the mobile armor mode, the transformation for the suit itself is fine, but docking it with the back weapon system, especially the shield, is particularly annoying. One of the adapter pieces is supposed to clip into two little notches on the insides of the legs by the knee, and it just wasn't holding for me. It was very, very annoying to do. And you also have to kind of, because of its massive size, it's also fairly heavy, so you need to balance it carefully on the action base so it doesn't tip over. That action base 13 is definitely a necessity if you want it in mobile armor mode. A lot of kind of less robust action bases would struggle to hold it up like this. And the accessory spread is quite nice. It's about everything you would expect from it, even like the functional waist pods and grenade pods on the wrists. The only thing it's really missing in that regard is color accuracy for the wrist-mounted grenade pods and the ability to take the grenades out and kind of pose it flying in front of the ReGZ. So, would I recommend this kit? Yes, if you're a fan of the ReGZ. I was a little skeptical of the $67 price tag, but I think for the amount of plastic you get in this kit, this is a rather large kit. It's very kind of feature complete. You just need to pay attention to the kind of articulation of the legs for posing. That's kind of a downside, but yeah, I would absolutely recommend this kit if you can find it at the MSRP of $67, at least here in the States, which is, and as always, it's significantly higher than the yen price. Definitely don't pay any scalpers for it. And if you can find the Unicorn version, I would also recommend that if the color scheme is not a deal breaker to you. It's going to be identical to this kit, except for that color scheme, of course. So that was my review of the Master Grade ReGZ Char's Counterattack version. What do you think of this kit? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like reviews like these, please consider subscribing. And I'll see you next time with my review of the high-grade Cybaster Extra Finish version, for real this time.